So, greetings from Sabil, greetings from Palestine, dear friends. I hope everyone is doing well and being healthy. We know it's for many of us around the world. It's the winter season, so it's plenty of viruses going around. It's very bad here in Palestine. Um, the idea that so many already are sick here in the West Bank and in Jerusalem, just to think about what's taking place in Gaza. When there's no hospitals, there's no medicine, there's no clean water, there's no heating. People are actually literally living in the streets or in the rubble. So we ask everyone to continue holding Gaza and the people of Gaza, and everyone who is suffering from wars around the world in your thoughts and in your prayers. Since the beginning of the year, you've noticed that Kumi has been a little bit different. Always we're different and unique, but there has been some changes. We're trying to build a program that each event, that the events that we will be holding when we have an outside speaker will be a full partnership with organizations. So it's always been like a partnership. We have speakers who come and they're like guests and they give a presentation and they speak about their organizations and they do represent their organizations on these events, and these are really important. But we're trying to build like 100% ownership of that event by both organizations. So it's taking some time. It's not easy being creative and pushing people who are already burnt out with what's taking place into new projects, but we're still doing it. Thank you for Ryan and especially Lily for doing the great work, and everybody. There's a small but amazing steering committee of Kumi that meets every now and then, and I'm lucky to be part of this meetings, and we brainstorm together. This week is the World Week of the Sick. So it's a it's a universal holiday, where people remember and celebrate and think and hold sick people in their thoughts, and actions around the world take place on that topic. Um, we we're hoping that next week, we're still not confirmed, but next week hopefully we have Physicians for Human Rights or another partner organization called Bisan, but I'm more leaning towards personally towards Physicians for Human Rights, because they work closely with Palestinian prisoners inside Israeli jails. In the last 4 months, on average, 2 to 3 Palestinians are dying in Israeli jails out of torture. The people who are leaving prison, they're letting us know about extreme dire conditions that are taking place inside the Palestinian jails, speaking specifically about Palestinian political prisoners, with hundreds and thousands are still under administrative detention. Many of the Palestinian prisoners are unaccounted for. Their families don't know in which prison or if they are alive or not. So the situation is extremely difficult, with the prisoners saying that they're having less than one meal a day, and very little water, and they have no rights at all inside jails. We really hope that this war ends and the international community will hold everybody on both sides, Palestinians and Israelis, accountable for everybody who has committed war crimes. I think it is very important, not just the day after is that business is as usual. A situation in Palestine and Israel with millions around the world, billions around the world who are aware of these atrocities taking place. Everybody who has been a victim of the violence, whether it is from Palestinians or Israelis, must be held accountable. Otherwise, we are living in a world that is very broken. And that is not that's not a world that we have chosen to be living in, Nor is it, I strongly believe as a person of faith that God has created this world, a broken world for us to live. It's true, we are living in a broken world, but I believe that we are the instruments of peace and the instruments of fixing it. So we are, I don't know if it's popular in your part of the world to use this terminology, but we say that it's in Palestine, it's the peacemakers. And I know some people over here who have been part of Christian peacemaker teams. So I want to mention that Sabil, especially as we're speaking about people who are sick. In Palestine, we are under occupation, and when you're under occupation, you cannot, as a group of people or as a state, build the institutions that are needed to take care of the people who are on the margins and the people who are sick. You know, we follow the news, and even in the US, it's not a perfect system. It's maybe far from perfect. The same thing in Canada, although Canadians claim they have a better system, which might be true, but yet healthcare is a very expensive um, part of governments. Healthcare in governments usually consumes a big portion of the budget, and that's when you're a really developed country with a great GDP. When you're a poor country or when you are a country under occupation, you can imagine that very few resources are available, where we mostly rely on aid, on international aid or charitable aid by within the same country. So in Palestine, on paper, we have universal healthcare, which is like, it's really amazing on paper. So it's when people, I think when the people who started to draft the rules and the regulations and what a Palestinian healthcare would look like, most likely it must have been people, Palestinian prisoners, sitting in the cell jail, thinking about like they've spent so many years of their life in prison, and they believe that the years they've lost from their lives, the comrades and their friends who have lost their lives for the same cause, must have died for something good. And the basic right is human rights, and having access to healthcare. So they were really very they drafted the perfect healthcare. So for us as Palestinians, every Palestinian has the right for healthcare in Palestine. However, policies and rules need to be backed by resources and by services. But sadly, the Palestinian healthcare system lacks most of the essential services. Although we have hospitals and doctors, but according to the studies, we need double this amount. So you can imagine how much it is the waiting time. We need double the number of the existing doctors, and many of our doctors have modest and simple training because of its medicine relies heavily on research and on attending conferences and on serious investments. So it takes us some time to catch on some of the medical developments, and medicine, especially medicine that is dedicated for chronic diseases, and that would require the government to create some subsidies, especially for diabetes and high blood pressure, is very expensive, and most Palestinians are not able to afford these costs. So it creates, still the Palestinian health system is able to provide coverage for major surgeries or a big portion of the surgeries, which is good. But for medium and small services, it's terrible. And like, sadly, that's the US way of, the US dream. Wherever there's a problem, it's capitalism comes to rescue it. And we have a private system, and the private system is always eager to serve Doesn't mean that they have higher qualities, but they do have they have more, with resources. They have more better access to services, I would say, and some better conditions. Now, however, it is like similar to the US. People cannot to have either you have to have lots of money or you have to have health insurance. And most Palestinians, except of our corrupt leadership, we do not have a lot of resources for most of the people. And people would have to rely on health insurance, which is logical. It's the group comes together. It's like the Three Musketeers, one for all and all for one. That's exactly what health insurance is. That we all help each other when somebody is in need. A friend indeed is a friend in need, and it's a community can be the friend indeed for all of the rest of the community. We call it as family in grassroots movements and in organizations. So for us as Palestinians, the issue is that health insurance, they don't like health coverage. It's extremely risky. And they make it a condition to allow people to join their healthcare services. One is that it needs to be for bigger bodies, organizations. And these organizations could be schools, universities, or big companies. And definitely they need to be under the retirement age, which is 65. So imagine, it's you have to be employed for a big company, and you have to have and you have to be under the age of 65. So in a way, that's not fair because most people are not employees of larger companies. Many of our Palestinian community are either simple farmers or they operate their own businesses. They own their own work. So that's the first obstacle. The second obstacle is for people is the price, because it's expensive and most people they barely try to make it. It's by day by day, and so access you're not allowed. Price is high most of the times, and the third one is that it's when people are above 65 or people who already have chronic diseases or people who are with disabilities or with certain needs, health insurance companies will not allow them to get insured. So Sabil, in a way, we thought of inspired by the Book of Acts with the early church, when the early church said, it's that everybody came together and they were sharing, eating from the same plate, and which is similar to the story of communion. We said, why don't we do it together? There's so many Palestinian Christian organizations, schools. Churches are the second biggest employer, the third biggest employer after the PA and UNRWA. I mean, it's that's black humor, but I mean, it is now with the US and the rest of the world cutting back on donations to UNRWA, so churches will be number two. I mean, it's depressing. It's a bad joke, but it's a reality, and unless you cut down the donations to churches, so that makes us back to number three. So, I mean, sorry, it is just so many problems. We have to be a little bit ironic and sarcastic of the whole situation, but that's the reality. That's something part of coping with the catastrophes that are taking place. It's the international courts claim that Israel is committing a genocide and is committing wars and so on. The second day, Palestinian refugees get punished, and immediately all of the world or half of the world, or the biggest part of the countries of the world take immediate action without even a proper investigation. So benefiting from the size of our Christian organizations, schools, universities, and Christian medical system, we went together with the different parishes in a collective, and that was in 2020, just at the beginning of COVID. And we came and we said, why don't you deal with us all as one community? And we were blessed by so many Christian organizations and schools and so on that were willing to come and act as one body. And we said we are one family. Although we don't have like memorandums of understandings between the different organizations and schools, but or agreements, and every school and every falls under a certain denomination and are completely independent. At least in front of the insurance companies, we came and we said we are one. Either you take us, one for all, or all for one. So actually, then we became a serious opportunity, and a number of companies looked into the risk, and they said, and and they offered like for us tenders, and we all applied. So since 2020, this is the fourth year we have a health insurance that has provided access for 3,000 people. Out of the 3,000 people, um, 2,000 are employees of organizations and schools and their extended families, and 1,000 are people from parishes, either people with chronic diseases or disabilities, or the elderly, who have never been had access to health insurance, and they were immediately received health insurance. Did not take. I mean, it sounds like a miracle, but it all had for people just to come and say, we're one. We always say it in church, we are one body in Christ. But actually, we said it and we acted upon it. So it's a different act. It is just, you can talk the talk, but when you walk the walk, things become different. And it was really amazing because it was like looking at, it's I remember when the families from parishes, for them it was like getting, many of the people were so much touched when they got the insurance card. And we pushed it for up to 86 years of age for anybody. I mean, it is everybody was welcomed with the health insurance, and people were so excited. It was like, receiving, like a child receiving a gift. Many people who were really worried about what would happen to them if they become sick, what would they do. I have to also acknowledge that it's um, 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 uh, in the beginnings when we were sharing the idea, it's actually the same organization that Lily has come is comes is from is volunteering at Sabil through its programs. It's the Mennonite Central Committee, and the Mennonite Central Committee, the Mennonites, which I have to admit, um, uh, through the Mennonite Church, I served on the steering committee of Christian peacemaker teams. And once, it's on the board, they were speaking about health insurance, and they spoke about this early church, the model of the early church with health insurance. And actually, this is where I got the idea that I got it, and then I transformed it to our community and to Sabil, and I said this is exactly like the early church. So thanks for the Mennonites first for providing with the idea, and finding some Mennonites in the US with the Church of Brethren who acted on this. Then actually the Mennonite Central Committee also provided like the seed fund, a donation for 3 months to help for 3 years for Sabil to help at least to do the capacity work, um, or the preparational work for this project. We're so excited to see that it's like actually 10% of the Christian community became part of this health insurance overnight. And out of the 10,000, out of the 10%, if you compare this to the US, you're speaking about like close to 35 million people overnight joining health insurance, completely funding it through their own projects and within the church. It's an exciting project. We strongly believe in this project as Sabil. We have a new staff person at Sabil, a colleague of myself and Lily. His name is Anton. He's a brilliant young guy, very promising, extremely energetic. I feel him. I mean, he brings positive vibes, and he's going to be taking care of the project. So it's a one person taking care, one person health insurance project, which is really remarkable. But that's not the only task he has. He has other tasks together with other colleagues at Sabil. So that's Sabil, that's healthcare, you know. And actually, that's the Sabil healthcare project. Interestingly, I think when we looked it up, that's like the biggest project, health self-insurance project in the world. Although most health insurance companies or insurance companies started at churches when we did the research, and then they became too big that they had to move into the business world. So that is what is one of the different projects of Sabil. We say these are like, actually we call it a Kumi project because it means like don't just look uh, um, and observe the problems, just overcome them if you have the faith and the energy to do this. So that's, I don't know if there are some questions. Um, so
Yeah, Omar, do you want to just say again, the number of people that through this program are receiving insurance now? And if anyone has any follow-up questions based on what Omar has shared, you can raise your hand or put them in the chat before we start our actions.
yes, the number now, we have a coalition of close to 80 organizations, schools. Some of them are like Bethlehem University with 700 staff people. And then you have like a small kindergarten in a small Palestinian village, like Aboud, with like 3 staff. So the numbers go, we have around 80 organizations and representation from every parish in the West Bank. It's actually when we got so regarding if it's regarding the project, so if it's self-sustaining, actually we hired or we asked the advice of health insurance experts, and they said you're doing everything wrong. This will not work. So of course we did like any person of faith would do, ignore the wisdom or the advice of the experts and just follow the Holy Spirit. And actually, it worked out. So still, many people call it the crazy project here in Palestine. They call it, you are crazy people, because it's like, it's not irrational. You know, it is that you need to prepare plans and you need to make a study and, you know, you have to do all of these things. But we said, you know, we have faith, and people of faith do stupid things, foolish things.
Maybe we'll move to just a few questions in response to your presentation, Omar. Margaret, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
I think we need to allow people to unmute themselves. Yes.
You can unmute Margaret.
But it was a relief. It was a reminder that we are under occupation with the Israelis.
Yes.
So I mean, we have bigger problems to worry about. But
It is. It's a solemn reminder. But I simply wanted to say what I'm sure everyone here is thinking. Just what a splendid story that was of not letting the people who think they know how to do things rule, but to work with your heart and your soul together with the other allied organizations to get the insurance system underway. I just wanted to send warmest congratulations and terrific, wonderful.
thank you, Margaret.
And I just follow on from Margaret. I found that very inspiring, and to think what you have achieved under the circumstances that you're living under is truly remarkable, and I think you know, is a great strengthening to us who are living in much better situations. So thank you for sharing that.
You know, it's many people believe that when people decided as humanity, there was a decision at a certain time for communities to take care of the people who are vulnerable, who are injured, or who are sick. And that decision, although very costly for communities, we're speaking about prehistoric times, because people had to be, they were hunter-gatherers, that you need to start thinking as a community rather as an individual, has really allowed people to settle down and to sit and to think and to ask the bigger questions. And in a way, it's actually the people who are the most vulnerable in the communities, are actually the reason that people moved into building civilizations and to move from hunter-gatherers to farmers and and to have their own herds. And that if people were very selfish, it would have been, I mean, only the survival of the fittest, and nobody would have survived as humanity. But it is when we became a little bit more caring, we evolved together as a community. And I think that's a lesson that tens of thousands of years people understood it and discovered it and respected it. And it's still actually found in certain animals like wolves and different groups of animals, that they still take care of themselves and show compassion. Yes, here's another. Yeah, please, if people ask to be on to be done as co-host, so we have some Israelis excited about the project. So we're getting some people, I don't know, that's fine, but they can listen to our wisdom. Yes, John? Please
Yes,
yes.
one comment and a question. I just would say that from personal experience with the Palestinian medical establishment, I cannot imagine more care and more devoted service that I personally received, and at 1/100th of the price it would have been in the United States. And my question is, what are the issues, or how can the program be expanded? Are there certain things that are blocking the program from being expanded?
Yeah, but there's somebody who has written someone showing Israeli flag, so he sent me a direct message. It's in Hebrew. Make me co-host and kick me out. It's a little bit, you know, if you change your name from a Hebrew name, it's, you know, go get a course in harassment and come back. So, okay, so sorry. I don't know, it seems that some people are taking us as targeting us as, I don't know. It seems there's more interest in us. But so please don't open the files that are in the chat or anything, please. And I don't know if somebody can kick him out.
Yeah, we're working to make sure these people are removed. Again, apologies to everyone.
Yeah, we should add, usually Palestinians say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. We should put from the river to the sea to Zoom, Palestine will be free. So
Maybe Diane, one more comment or question, and then we'll move on to our actions for this week.
yes.
Yes. This is a wonderful program. I have a question. Is it just for Christians? Or can it include Muslims?
No, of course. Over 50% of the staff at Christian organizations are not Christian, are Muslims or Samaritans. So it's over 50% are not Christians. So, I mean, it is in Sabil and Palestinian liberation theology, we strongly stand firm for three pillars. One thing is inclusivity, the first pillar, that regardless of the identity, whether it is a faith identity, nationality, color of skin, sexual orientation, whatever people identities have, we are all equal and the same. So there's no discrimination on the in any form at Sabil. The second pillar is justice. So we strongly believe in justice, and that's why Sabil is always tries our best to be a strong voice for justice and peace. And the third is nonviolence. So we stand firmly with nonviolence. So it's everything that we do has to be inclusive and supportive. That's part of our identity.
Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for listening and engaging with this part about Sabil's important project with the health insurance. At this time, we're going to move into completing our weekly actions that were sent out in the Kumi newsletter this week. Two announcements. Firstly, you will have seen on our newsletter that there was an announcement that our newsletter format will be changing going forward from this week. So instead of just receiving a Kumi newsletter, you will now receive a Sabil newsletter that includes all the information from Kumi, but it will also have all of the happenings and events at Sabil. This is just a way that we're streamlining our communications, but everything on matters regarding Kumi will still be included there, including the actions. So that's just an update. So don't be surprised when you see that the email looks a little bit different. Secondly, we're going to present the actions briefly here in the main group, and then we have the opportunity this week to join into breakout rooms. So firstly, from our newsletter this week, the petition that we're signing for Canada is for on our newsletter. It's to the government of Canada, asking that the government impose a two-way embargo on arms between Canada and Israel, investigate whether Canadian weapons or weapons components have been used against Palestinian civilians, reviewing all military and security cooperation between Canada and Israel, and asking Canada to defund the military of Israel. For our US action, we're going to be filling out a petition that is posted on FOSNA's website regarding the US defunding of UNRWA. So demanding an immediate ceasefire, increased humanitarian assistance, and then continuing with this new update on the UNRWA funding. The worldwide action is the Gaza ceasefire pilgrimages that are occurring during Lent. This link is shared. We also encourage everyone to look at the spreadsheet for the Gaza ceasefire pilgrimages to see if there is a pilgrimage happening in your city then that you can join, help promote and be a part of. And we'd also encourage you, if not, to reach out to the email that's listed on their website and become a part of trying to host a ceasefire pilgrimage if there's not one that's taking place already in your city. And then Philippa, if you're available to give a brief summary of the UK action before we break out into our breakout rooms.
Can you please unmute?
Sorry, I'm looking to unmute her. 1 second.
I don't think, do we know? I think Najwa Alila is not,
Yeah,
doesn't.
okay, Philippa, you should be able to unmute now.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so the UK action is about emailing the leaders in the UK about hospitals in southern Gaza, which are obviously in desperate need of protection and relief. So it's a medical aid for Palestine based kind of program, and they have like an automated button on the link, sending an email directly to your MPs, kind of informing them of the situation if they don't already know, and kind of highlighting the fact that the hospitals are at risk of a lot of them have closed, and a lot of them are directly under attack by IDF forces at the minute. So to email your MPs, asking them to write to the Foreign Secretary David Cameron, demanding action to uphold international humanitarian law and to save Gaza's hospitals. So even if you sent an email before, it's worth sending another one just to make sure that the MPs are getting the message that action needs to occur now. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Philippa. So at this time, we're opening the breakout rooms. You should all be invited to join, and we ask that you join the one that is relevant to your region. And in this space, we will together complete the relevant actions to our region.
On behalf of Sabil and everyone else, I would like to thank you for being part of another Kumi session. Sorry for the confusion and the annoying experience. Everyone is back. Dorothy, you're back. Did you have unwanted guests there?
So sorry?
Did you have unwanted guests?
No one wanted this.
Once we got through, yeah. I just, you're just living in madness over there. It's absolutely dreadful, and I don't think you have to feel guilty at all about not making this work, because I think you had people interfering. Well, at least they know that you're there, but I was a bit confused because they were shouting Arabic, weren't they? They were actually shouting Allah Akbar, which is like a Muslim thing, and yet it was like the Israeli flag. I wasn't quite sure what it's all about.
I don't know. They're calling. I don't know what they're doing. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't give it so much attention.
Yeah.
Okay, friends. On behalf of Sabil and the Kumi team, I just want to say thank you all. We enjoy every week your presence and appreciate your solidarity. Please take care of yourself and see you next week.